Hey YouTube. Hi. Today's topic is going to be about uh, Black pride within the North American and Latin American community. Um, I come about this topic. I was looking at a video um, on YouTube. The person's name, the little name where they have where your account. She goes by the name, or the channel goes by the name Afro Pride TV, and she's a Hispanic Black, and her YouTube video is entitled "Afro Dominicans Denying Their Blackness," and it's a relatively short video, and she speaks from her heart, and it's um, it's it just got me thinking about my experience living in New York City. In New York City, you have a lot of uh, Hispanics from the Caribbean, and some of the things that I've heard growing up, and some of the challenges that you know infighting between English-speaking blacks and Spanish-speaking blacks. Uh, uh, Conflicts between lighter skinned ones and darker skinned ones. So with this video that I'm doing, I want to share with you first some of my experiences that I encountered, and then what is bringing me to the point where embrace one's blackness, their Africanness. You know, uh, Wherever where you go in life, you have to bring yourself, and most likely the person sitting or standing next to you do not like themselves either. So you can start with yourself and learn to love yourself, respect yourself, and love all of you. Okay, so that's the premise where I'm coming from with this. Um, my first experience, um, I think that when um, I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I had some friends from high school and junior high school who were of Puerto Rican ancestry. And back then, I back then in junior high school and high school, I knew nothing about my heritage, absolutely nothing. And I knew nothing about Puerto Rico or its history. And these were very light-skinned Puerto Ricans. And when we graduated from high school, uh, we still kept in touch a little bit. And oh, I'm sorry, getting lost track. Oh, well, we used to visit each other's homes. They came to my home. I came to their home. I had I slept over their home. And when we graduated from high school, um, let's see, let's see, both of them eventually, both were girls, and they eventually got married. The younger one got married first, and she did marry a white fellow, and he was nice. I think he was a Jewish background, and I was invited to their wedding, and let's see, and then the older one gets married next, and we I met her future husband. We all met each other at the same time. It's actually the younger sister that introduced uh, her to her future husband. And um, one day, the husband to be and myself were at her house, and I was shocked to hear him say slurs to her, slurs about being Puerto Rican. And oh, the guy, I almost forgot. The guy is a white fellow yeah, he actually was born in Germany, and he came to the U.S. At an extremely young age. and he did um, he did construction work. He did construction work, and the girl was a secretary, and so we all met each other at a club actually, and um, the two eventually start dating. But in this one particular visit, when I was at her house and he was there, he said awful things to her. And when he had left the room, I said, "Hey, how come you say things like that?" And she excused it that, well, he only has a seventh grade education, and don't mind him. But her prior boyfriend to that was Hispanic, a brown skinned Hispanic, my color or even a little darker. I'm not sure where he was from, what country he was from. Um, but either way, she left him because he was verbally abusive, and it almost ruined her. So I was confused why she was dating this, white guy who is verbally abusive also. She does marry him, and once she married him, um, she she stopped talking to me. And even before she got married, she had how to go like when I found out she was getting married, um, she was telling me about her wedding plans, what she was going to do, and my thinking that I was her best friend, um, I said, oh, well, if you need help, I can help you out with the shopping and everything. And she said, oh, that's okay. My in-laws are going to help me out. She had the person that she was marrying had cousins, um, lady cousins. I think it's about four of them, and she never met them. She did not know them, but they were going to help her with the shopping. And I was a little confused. I was very naive back then. Uh, this is about 28 years ago, even or between 25, 28 years ago. And so I was confused why she wasn't asking me to help, and she's going to have people that she doesn't know, help her get a wedding dress and all that. I figure if I'm getting married, I want people who I know, assisting me. But that wasn't the case with her. And then um, I found out that I wasn't going to be in the wedding. I was invited to the wedding, but I wasn't to be a part of the wedding party. And it just didn't rub well with me. So I talked to her. I said, hey, uh, I understand I'm not going to be in your wedding. I said, is it because I'm black? She says, oh, no, no, we're just going to have just family members in the wedding. But she only has one sister, and that's it. No other relatives that at least she keeps in contact. And everyone else in the wedding party was going to be from his side, and she doesn't know them at all. But they're all going to be in the wedding party. But she did have her sister to be the maid of honor. So I do go to the wedding, and then after the wedding, I noticed that she kept changing her telephone number, and that was when all was going on. So I even contacted her in-laws. Hey, because we had a what do you call it, the bridal shower at their home, so they knew me, or I should say knew of me, and they were very nice people. And so, they gave me her new number. So I called my friend, and to make a long story short, with this person, I didn't want to feel that our relationship was one-sided. I wanted to know, hey, did you really want to continue this friendship? We knew each other for five 5 years, 6 years, and no, maybe it could have been close to 10 years. So it's not someone I just met. Um, so I didn't call her for like a year, and then I called her on her job, and um, she answered the phone, and I said, "Hey, how you doing? It's me." And I, said my name, and she sounded like she was disappointed. She sounded disgusted, and she said, "Oh, I'm in someone else. I had to pick up the phone in someone else's office. Let me get to my office and I'll call you right back. I haven't heard from her since 1985, and it's 2014. Okay, so it got it was a slap in the face, but I realized with her, she didn't want to associate with people from her past, even though I come over her house and sleep over, and she's been over my house. I've invited her to family functions, but because she wanted a completely new life, and I gather a new identity, and even her friends she had friends from Puerto Rico. They weren't in the wedding either, you know. So it just seemed like someone who um, just didn't want to be associated with her heritage. And she lives out in Long Island somewhere, in a all white community. And I said, wow, this is, self hatred for to marry someone that says things, pejorative against your race or your ethnicity and not associate to certain people. I said, well, why why even hate yourself? You know, why even be around people that don't really like you or respect you? And even though she looks European, but she's not. And the fact that she has a black grandmother, and she even told the guy that her grandmother is black, and for those things to still say these pejorative things, it's um it's really what I call self hatred. And where does this come from? Okay, so that was just one experience, and then another experience I had was this was a girl that I met in New Jersey. I used to go to a school in New Jersey. It was a beauty school. I wanted to learn about hair, and at that time, I was the only black person in the school. Most of the people at the school were Italian, and we did have one Polish person. The teachers of the school, the one spouse was from Italy, and the other partner was Jewish. And so here I'm in this school, and um, sometime after I started the school, she started the program, and she was a very light-skinned girl. She looks like a light-skinned Hispanic girl. I think that's what most people, if they see her, what she looks like. Very pretty, a cream complexion, medium brown eyes, very full lips. Um, she bleached her hair almost a white color, I remember. And what else? She's her heritage. Um, her mother's Dominican, and she says her father is a what do you call it? Someone from Holland, but she was actually born in Curacao. And one day I thought we were friends, and at that time I lived on 149th Street. The area is, at least the storefront areas, mostly people from the Dominican Republic. But you have different ethnic groups, Black American blacks that live there as well. So I I invited her. Hey, I'd like to invite you to my home. And I really thought she was joking, but she said to me, "Oh, I can't come to your home. I'm a white girl, and I can't be around those people." And I really thought at first she was joking, and then I realized she's serious. And so I thought it was amazing. I thought she was, insane because she looks just like the other Dominican girls there. Anyone in that area would just assume she's Dominican also. and she never did come over, and we didn't continue the friendship either. But I just thought that was very interesting, you know. Um, and then I had a job in security as a security guard once, and at the job, there was a young a woman. She she was of Puerto Rican ancestry. She was very petite, very fair skinned, and she had said to me one time, um, uh, like like when you do security work, you can only leave when the person relieves you of your post, and the person that was to relieve me, he was a student also as I was, and um, when he came in, it was a brief conversation, how you doing, and and then you go. I had a race to go to school. Um, but one day, this woman from Puerto Rico says to me, before he came in, says, "Oh, you can't date him. You have to keep, keep it, keep it separate and blah blah blah." And I'm wondering, what is she talking about? I mean, I'm not flirting with him. I mean, I had my career trying to establish. I wanted to finish school because I was out of school for years, and I took offense because I thought she was judging me. The guy was a light skinned Hispanic, and I thought she was saying that to me because my skin is brown, and it just rubbed me. I just felt judged by her, and so that's why I felt offended. I mean, I didn't get into it with her, but I just kept a mental note, and I just thought she was out of place. And then shortly after that, some days later, she's flirting with a guy on the job. One of the clients, he's half Puerto Rican and half Italian, and he was saying, I don't know what I am, and I was surprised he was saying that openly. Maybe he's a cool guy. He's like a very nice guy, but then she starts to flirt with him, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, you were telling me that I can't date or talk to this guy because of he's whatever, and then you're openly flirting with the client. Like, he wasn't a client. He worked for the client, and I took offense. That's when I really took offense because I was saying, wait a minute, here I'm not flirting with this guy, and I'm racing to go to school, and you don't like that I have any verbal dialogue with this person, and yet you're. So that's when my animosity came out. But um, um, but some incident happened after that. Um, she one day didn't relieve me of my post correctly, and I said it was just a lot of politics that was going on in that job. That one thing I noticed with that job, at least at that particular site, that they had the Hispanics who were generally very fair skinned work on one floor, the floor where the main headquarters were, and then all the darker skinned people like myself and the American blacks, uh, and Haitians on a different floor. And it just, you know, for things, all things being equal, with equal chance, I should say, it wouldn't look like that. And even from day one, just something didn't sit right. That they were segregating based on race and skin color, and I'm very sensitive to that. And so, with that background, and then this woman saying her comment to me of that I couldn't talk to someone, and then when she didn't relieve me on my post, I also felt that they were also trying to have her become my boss, and so I didn't want that. Uh, so I did report that I wasn't released on my post, and they knew who was supposed to release me on my post, and so um, I had, also had to protect myself because on this particular job site there were a lot of thefts, and a lot of the theft was on the floor she had to patrol, but there was no theft on the floor that I was patrolling. So um, so with that background, I I wanted to protect myself. It was also just a couple of months after the 9/11 incident, at World Trade Center, and the building was under code orange. Code red is the next highest and of the code, and so we're in code orange. I'm not really to my post correctly. The person left before I got there, and with the thefts that were happening, so there's a window, a gap in time, and anything could happen at that gap, and I didn't want to be blamed for it. So that's also why I reported it. And so she was friends with the people, management, uh, the company that hired us, and it was not positive. But she doesn't get in trouble. When that happens, you're actually supposed to be fired, and but nothing happens to her. But I wanted it to be documented to protect myself in case something happens during that time that she was not there. But I'm sorry. I know it sounds like I'm going off the track, but I'll try to piece it all together. So our relationship it blows up some weeks after that incident when this person started to judge the work that I did, and I didn't like it, especially when all the theft is happening during her watch and not mine. So I took offense, and she's not backing off, and she's, and acting very arrogant. So I just couldn't take it any longer, and I realize now, post incident, what was going on. My I was hurt by uh, the person who I thought was my friend who excluded me from the wedding thing, that I talked about earlier. And with this, you know, the person from the school, the hair school, her behavior. And so when this woman was doing what she did, um, and I thought she was judging me about the guy um, talking to me very briefly. So I yelled I yelled from my belly. I'm not a loud speaker, as you could tell, but I was so hurt and enraged actually that I actually yelled at her, and I said some choice words, and in the middle of me using some choice words at her, someone else comes in the room and hears me, and I just let it all out. I did get written up. They didn't fire me, um, but I explained why I I I explained to them why I reacted the way I did, and they just try to scare me at the office and say, well, you better not do it again, and you can get fired, but we're not going to fire you. But actually, oh well, I'm sorry. um, there are other things that happened on that site, but in short, I had a verbal outburst towards her, and so in short, with that was here. Sometimes events happen, and events could be accumulative. It's not just one event. It could have been a lifetime of different things going on in your life, different people, and um, it could result in one to become prejudiced against a particular race or ethnicity, and the hatred was starting to um, take root in me. It was that painful. I guess I felt rejected, and I was so, you know, someone's trying to make me feel like I'm a dirty person, and that I didn't like, you know. And then there was another person from the Dominican Republic, and I met two Dominican guys. One was my complexion, and then the other one was black in complexion. And I noticed when with both of them that they made mention about their race, and I didn't understand why. It was obvious what they were, especially the black skinned guy. Um, he said, "Oh, in my country they call me that people my color are Indian," and the other person who's like my complexion was looking at my skin and then looking at his, and he seemed very uncomfortable. Actually, he was a taxi driver. That's how I met him. He's a taxi driver bringing me someplace. So it's someone I didn't even know, the lighter skinned one. And he says the same thing. So, well, my country, I'm they call me Indian. And I'm wondering, what's this Indian thing with Dominican? Are they saying Indians from India or indigenous people from the Americas? But either way, that it was obvious that they're not Indian, and why the need of this kind of conversation. So with all that background information that I gave you regarding some of the Hispanics that I met from the Caribbean descent, um, what's going on, um, and why are we treating each other like this? My background also is from the Caribbean, but not the Spanish-speaking islands. But I'm born in the U.S., born in New York City, and so this is my home. But I meet people from all over the world, and I ask myself now, why this self-hatred, and why do we as blacks, whether you're mixed race black or a black of Hispanic heritage, why this um, animosity, or I shouldn't say animosity, why this self-hate and not want to be affiliated. So lately, well, about a year ago, I started listening to this radio station. It was during February, so this was last year in February, and I was new to the station. I was, turning it dial, and then I love talk radio, and so I started listening, and being that it was February, they had a lot of programs on Black history, and so my listening to this show for almost a year now, a little over a year, it introduced me to a lot of new things about Black history in the Caribbean, Africa, North America, and I found it fascinating. And so when they bring up a topic or a person's name in history, I have a computer, I type in the name, and then I learn about the person, or and look at videos about this person, that they talked about in history. And so I started to become educated about our history. And when when you really start, you know, I have to back up a little bit, but my growing up here in the United States, I did feel uncomfortable about my Black heritage, and it's something that I wanted to run away from, and I did it for years. And but you could run, but you can't hide. You can't hide from yourself. And I mean, I even used to have dreams about, about blacks running after me, and I thought they were trying to kill me. But in actuality, with this one dream that I had, I was being chased by these young black men. At least I thought they were young black men. And then, in this one dream, I turned around and I faced. I said, I want to find out why they running after me. And so I turned around in the dream. I said, "What do you want?" And this shocks me to this day. What I saw in front of me was a little child, a little dark-skinned black child, and he had like tears in his eyes, and he was like going like that, like sniffing, like he's crying. And I realized this child was wanted help. He was hurting, and that was the last time I ever had a dream like that about blacks running after me. And it's, so, so it's for me. It's been a long process, but it's something now that I can embrace with greater confidence. And the more you educate yourself about your history, especially with regard to slavery and the things that happened, your fear, your initial, I would say initially there might be fear involved because it's something that you thought it was taboo, that you're not supposed to talk about it, um, pretend that it never existed. But one thing, with whites, they don't forget. They may not know, like, all the deep history about it, but they know when they go in their house, they know who they don't want to be their neighbor, and they know who they don't want to sit next to on the job, you know. And that's what I had to come to terms with. And being of mixed ancestry, I thought, well, I'm half of you guys, so hey, I'm one of you. That type of mentality. But in their eyes, they don't see half full. They just see you're empty. You're not one of them. They don't want to be associated with you. You're just there to entertain them or to do for them. And that unfortunate is what I realize in many instances. And so my listening to this radio station really started opening up my eyes, and that I started to take pride in myself, and that I'm no longer that bad person or that dirty person. You were a victim. You were victimized, or your ancestors were victimized, and um, they're to be honored. And here, who should really be ashamed are those people who um, took you as slaves, who violated your body, your soul, and your spirit. They should be walking around in shame. But they're not walking around in shame because they want to deny that it's their fault or any involvement, but they reap the benefits of what the horrors of slavery gave to the Americas. You know, so I say to you out there in YouTube that don't walk around with your head down. Don't feel badly about your physical appearances, your features, your skin color, your hair. It's all what God gave you. You know, have a God conscious. Um, these people who have a mentality of a slave owner, they have they don't love God. They see themselves as a God, but God is a jealous God, and God is going to smack them down. You know, there's a time and season for every matter, and the what some whites, their mentality, what they have is something that will eventually consume them and destroy them. So I say, blacks, whether you're mixed or pure race, you pat yourself on the back that your ancestors survived that trip overseas. And um, when I realized that like I had a DNA test taken, and when I found out that my what they call a what do you call it, mitochondrial DNA, that's a DNA that's inherited, that you get from your mother, and your mother gets it from their mother, and so on and so on. It doesn't change. And when I learned that that DNA that I have is actually an African one, uh, it it really initially it surprised me because I was told that my mother's people weren't Native Americans from the Carib Indian, And according to the DNA, I have no Native American of anything. I'm half African, it said, half West African, and half West European. So it's really something that, that even that is telling that here some light-skinned blacks are either being lied to or they're lying to themselves about what their history is. My grandmother was not a mestizo. She was a light-skinned black woman, and she did have the opportunity to live and work in Argentina. So here you have a light-skinned black from the West Indies and goes to Argentina, and here she's living a life, and either she was told that by her family what about her false heritage, but you know we need to know who we are, and maybe in the past it was dangerous to let people know your heritage because you had people who would kidnap free blacks and enslave them again, just like in the movie 12 Years a Slave. But we're not in those times. We're living in the now and the present, and we need to. The point of my mention about my grandmother. Um, I'm sorry. Um, it once we know what our excuse me our true heritage is, what can help us embrace it more. I'm interested in taking a trip to West Africa. Ideally, I would love to do the whole strip, the West Coast, and really learn about our heritage. The more you know about yourself and where you come from, the more empowering you become. See, whites have an advantage over us with, that they don't they 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 block you from learning who you are. That's why they took away your religion, your name, or even know what country or tribe in Africa you come from. And then they can then put lies into you and tell you you're no good, you're bad, you know. So that's the weapon they use. But you could, Latina, or Anglo, black, learn your history, take a trip to Africa and learn what your real roots are, and you'll come back a different person. I think you will no longer, I think, worship the white man. You see them for what they are. There's nothing creative about them. The knowledge that they learn it from you. They learn about science from you. They learn about agriculture. That's why a lot of, you find Europeans going into Africa even now. They go into Asia. They go to all these places in the world, you notice, to acquire knowledge and information. And then they take it, repackage it, and make it look like that they created it or they invented it. And it's not the case, you know. I even used to work in a jewelry company, and it was a Frenchman, and he had said to me and the rest of the students, he said, "Oh, well, my teacher worked at the place I used to work at, this jewelry place, and he had said to the class, he said, this jewelry is not French. It's it's actually East Indian." And he invited the designer, dark skinned East Indian guy. His work was fantastic. So even the jewelry, it's not European. The fashions that they have, a lot of the fashions come from, people of color. Even the music that they have these days, it's it's all R&B. A lot of the white singers now, it's all R&B. It's just an R&B artist, but is a white person. And even the dance moves, everything it's all African American. And Latin music, it's not Latin music, it's Afro-Caribbean music. So let's start empowering us and stop putting European names on African things. is African or Afro-Caribbean music. So let's start claiming what's ours and start putting some European name on something. See, that's why whites don't respect us because we're not putting our foot down and saying, hey, this is ours. And we made it, you know? So you just, pat yourself on the back, you know, whether you're Latin or English speaking black or French speaking black, you know, we have to learn how to come together. We have to learn to love each other because together we are a strong force. But whites are trying to get us fighting each other, and they're very good using their psychological warfare on us. But we have to see through their intentions. We have to see through the intentions of the movies that we watch. A lot of these movies are to make you ashamed of yourself. They're now training black women to like white men. And no one likes each other. There's no love, it seems, between people of the same, of black on black loving each other. You don't even see two Latins, like Jennifer Lopez. I She was in only one movie that was her husband, but she she does movies with people not from her ethnicity. It's usually always with white men, and so there it's pulling us apart. We have to learn to come together. We have to learn to work together because the whole intention is that you know divide and conquer. So um, so my answer is again, um, learn to respect yourself, learn your history, and the more you learn, the more you know about yourself, that your pride will start to, self-esteem will improve, and stay away from negative people. Stay away from people always saying bad things about blacks or that they're better because they're lighter or even because they're darker. It's a small mind, you know. Educate yourself, and also love your neighbor. Okay. So let's see if I have some notes. I want to make sure I got everything in. Um, yeah. The I guess the last point um, is that the other reason why um, whites might be trying to get blacks and Hispanics against each other, you know, that right now the Hispanic groups outnumber um, non-Hispanic blacks, and that you might like the benefits that your numbers are growing, and maybe whites actually want American blacks, non-Hispanic blacks, to be pushed out. But I just say to the Latin community that be aware of the tactics of the enemy. That maybe whites might actually favor you over American blacks. But again, a snake is always going to be a snake, and that they are using you, and they're going to use you to push American blacks out. But then again, they're going to come and they're going to get you because again, they don't like you either. They tolerate the Latin, but they don't love you, and that love is going to eventually get you too. So I just say, better to unite with other people of color, especially your American black brothers. We were on the same slave ships. We all came over the same time. You can have a brother that was sent to Jamaica, the sister was sent to Florida, a cousin in Dominica, etc., etc. They just dropped us off all over, but the outcome was the same: that we lost our rights, we lost our heritage, and for that alone, you have to stand on it. Or I would know. I remember also why I mentioned about my grandmother. When I learned about the DNA and that it wasn't a Carib Indian DNA, the mitochondria, it was African. That um, that proved to me then that it was an African, that her heritage was from that African woman coming over to the Americas, and that she survived that trip. That's what really shook in me. I found out the DNA results, it was in 2009. And when I got that result, initially I was surprised because I assumed it was going to be native. When I saw it was African, and then I started to embrace it. I said, wow, she survived the trip. It was amazing. And I also went on a transatlantic trip. I was in the military, in the Navy, and we reported out from the East Coast, and we went over to across the Atlantic, and we did go to Egypt and the Mediterranean. So when I was going over across the Atlantic, I started thinking about what it must have been like for those slaves aboard. And it's a rough trip. And here I'm on an extremely large, big ship, military ship. Nothing like those little tiny little ships from the past. So I appreciate and appreciate learning who my mother's ancestors were. They were a black woman, and she survived that trip. And so you honor your ancestors, so to speak, and you honor them through by showing respect and liking who you are. I don't want to slap my grandmother across the face, so to speak, by denying that she came aboard. I'm a survivor like her. So you blacks out there, or you black Latino or mulatto Latino or Anglo speaker, you know, we're all good, and that God loves us. So we're just gonna keep on keeping on, okay? So take care and enjoy. See you, YouTube.